Okay, we are now live. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
It's good. How are you?
It's good, as good as it can be given the
Absolutely.
circumstances. But we're here and we're figuring it out, right?
Exactly. Every day.
Totally figuring it out. So good. So where are obviously you're in your home. Any particular
Yes.
place in your home that you're joining us from?
I'm coming to you live from my bonus room, which
Uh-huh.
is a combination comic book library, workstation, craft station for my wife. There's a bowl of cat food to my left. So it's a pretty highly used utility room here in our home.
That's awesome. So everyone's using it.
Well, really, it's just me. I've really kind of claimed it since the work from home situation started, which is fine because my son is playing Xbox and my wife has every other room in the house to choose from.
Yeah,
There, I think everyone's happier with me kind of sequestered
yeah,
up in here,
yeah.
keeping to myself. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm you can't tell, but I'm in the kitchen slash dining room because the husband is in his office, which is the
Uh
bedroom,
huh.
on his own
Sure.
calls. So we're all making it work.
That's how we do it. Yep.
Yes. Well, thanks for joining us. So you, for those of you who don't know, Chris, pronounce your last name for me.
Baiocchi.
Baiocchi, thank you. I was going to
You're welcome.
do the ch, so thank you for saying that. Baiocchi, with Habitat for Humanity.
Hmm.
And he has graciously offered to come on with us to talk about their virtual fundraising success. I've been told and heard and read, and then even learning from you that it was a huge success. And that's kind of been the thing that has been popping up a lot in the last
Hmm.
whole month now that we're in week 3 of stay at home order, and now a month, I think, since all the day-to-day chaos was kind of happening. And I know your event was just before all of the rules and regulations came in, and so you really had to pivot.
Yeah.
So Juan, I learned from you. We also have Michelle French, who's going to join us here pretty soon. She's a current events coordinator who also found herself with clients reaching out to her during all of this of what do we do? Every day it's, less than no more than 250 people, then no more than 100, and then it went down to
Yep.
50. So it was just this like day-to-day changes that everyone was not sure what to do. So thank you for coming to just talk and tell us how your team got through it.
Sure, my pleasure. Happy to share what we learned in our experience, and you're right. It was an ever changing situation. What we had was a one of our kind of signature events was a fundraising breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
which was about 150 people, scheduled for March 25th. And as things progressed, we kept seeing our RSVP numbers seemed a little soft, but they're always soft in the beginning, so we weren't sure what to attribute that to. And then there was no more than 200 people. We thought, well, I guess technically we're safe because our room capacity is 150.
Yeah.
And it was really this long. It was a real challenge to try to figure out what do we actually do. And I actually walked in one day really convinced we're just going to have the event and make it happen because I was looking at my fundraising budget and I needed to do this event. I needed this money to make goal or and to make
Right.
payroll and to make all the things we do. And I sought some advice from some of my board members, and one of my board members told me you've got to postpone it, even if you're technically
Mm.
within the reason. He said you have to postpone it because you have to show that you, being Habitat Orange County, that you realize things are different, that you can't
Yeah.
pretend that things are the same. You have to take steps to show that you're making changes and you're adapting as best you can. And that was a really hard decision to make, frankly, because it's I think like many of my fundraising colleagues, it's hard to think of like not getting money, not you know of
Yeah.
not hitting that goal, of not being able to serve our families.
Right.
So I was having a conversation with my team, and Gladys Hernandez, my director of marketing, she came up with the idea to change the breakfast into a online day of giving. We had talked about previously having an online giving component to the day, but that was going to be just a small part of the in-person event. And Gladys's idea was to, really expand it, to take that appetizer and make it the main course and really, really make that the whole focus. And we had 2 weeks from the time we made that decision.
Oh my gosh.
Because we wanted to hold the event. We wanted to hold this day of giving on the same day as the breakfast was scheduled for.
Okay.
So we really wanted to hold that line and have this really aggressive move to change our fundraising strategy. And we pivoted well, and Gladys and her team and the whole fundraising team, we sat down and said, okay, this is what it's going to be like. And we had a plan, and then we had to change the plan completely because within those 2 weeks, we had the stay-at-home order. So our initial plan had a lot of on-site, plans for me to go on-site and to go to the construction site. We were going to set up a little studio in one of our conference rooms and bring homeowners in and bring people in and talk to them about their habitat story. Scrapped all that. And we went to, we pivoted and said, okay, send us videos. And we put out a call to board members and donors and homeowners and volunteers and asked them for, 2-minute to, 90-second video segments that we could use throughout the day. And then from there, we built the event.
Amazing. Okay. So let's kind of back up, and just so people kind of also understand what the transition looked like, because this is just 2 weeks. I mean, that's to put on just a regular event. That's crazy. But to have to really transition an event, give everyone just an idea of what is the Building Dreams Hope Starts Here. That was the in-person event, correct?
Correct.
It was a breakfast. So what was it supposed to look like?
So our breakfast event had been a 1-hour fundraising breakfast. So within that 1-hour space, we bring people to the event. We have some opening comments from our CEO, Sharon Ellis. We have some words from our board members. We show a 6-minute video featuring 2 Habitat homeowners. Then we bring those homeowners out. We interview them on stage, talk about their experience. And then toward the end of the event, we have a direct ask made of everybody in the room. Everybody is asked to make a multi-year pledge or a donation to Habitat. We hand out pledge forms in the room. It's a free event. We rely on our board members and our staff and some of our key volunteers to invite people to this event. It's a lot of agencies use a model like this. This is, I think, our 6th or 7th year doing a breakfast, or it would have been. So that was the original model, was this kind of really intent and really intentional 1-hour breakfast event.
Okay. And typically, what's your goal at this event, for 1-hour event?
Our goal, looking at we have a goal of raising around $200,000 to $250,000 in cash and pledges in the room that day. Okay.
So then, when the transition came, and you said, okay, I love first of all that a team member came to you and said, why can't we do this online? Because just in what you said, a board member said, you got to postpone, you got to just do what you got to do, right? And which sounds normal and it makes sense. But then internally, you got passionate people that are saying, well, hey, why can't we try something different? Why can't we do something new and innovative? And it just shows that your team understands too the importance of what the event means financially.
Oh yeah. Everybody was really aware that postponing was not a decision we could enter into lightly, and that our obligation as fundraisers was to bring that money in. We really had to do it, not just for our ego or for our goals, but for the health of the organization and our ability to help the families we're charged to help. So they took it very seriously.
That's good. And so then once you made that decision, like, okay, we're going to go, you started talking about a little bit earlier, but what were some of those to-dos and tasks that you immediately had to kind of work through that were different from an in-person? Because you had the in-person set up. Was it a mindset of, let's try and take everything we had in person and find a way to do it virtually? Or it sounded like new ideas spawned out, but what were some of those to-dos and tasks that, people listening now or later can kind of jot down and go, okay, that's something I never thought about, or yeah.
Probably the first thing we did is we tried to identify what elements of the breakfast could be translated and could be brought into an online component. So, for example, as part of our planning for and lead up to the breakfast, we had commissioned a video, an in-depth interview with 2 of our homeowners, professionally done, professionally edited, a really great piece, about a 6-minute video. So we knew we had that. That was ready for the was ready about 2 weeks or a week and a half prior to the event. So we knew we had that in our pocket. We also knew we had at least one significant gift that had been already given in honor of the breakfast. And that donor, that anonymous donor, had said, yeah, use this gift as a challenge gift at your breakfast. So we knew we had some content, and we had some seed money. So our next really action was reaching out to everybody who had already committed to coming to the event, reaching out to our board, reaching out to everyone who traditionally gives at this breakfast, reaching out to everybody who has an ongoing pledge with the organization, and getting their commitment to give either before or on that day. And so our board chair, in response to that, our board chair agreed to, he had already finished his pledge last year. He agreed to announce a new pledge, a $100,000 pledge to the organization. He agreed to announce it on the day of the Giving Challenge and make it a challenge gift himself. So a lot of our pre-work, the fundraising team was really focused on, let's get as many commitments to gifts as we can and use that to build our goal. They were also focused on what kind of giveaways can we get from our donors or our contacts. So my Ashley Stites, my annual giving manager, secured some In-N-Out gift cards and some gift cards from a catering company that could do meal prep. And so she was looking at what kind of giveaways can we get. And then Gladys, and then our AmeriCorps, Esmeralda Figueroa, Esmeralda and Gladys were working on the actual social media scheduling and what would we say, when would we say, and they were working in conjunction with our PR company at the time, Mixie Communications. So we had one team looking at the dollars, one team looking at the actual content of what would be put out in email or social media form, and then also trying to figure out the technical elements of how would we actually do this, what would happen from there.
Okay, so one thing I heard, which is important, because this is manpower, right? Because there's some organizations that I think are limited on that. So you had a team focusing on the donors and the sponsors, making sure that those calls are happening. Would you say the calls and the inquiries were more intensive than ever before on that side?
I would say they were more direct and more. They were more frank, I think, than we usually are. I think as fundraisers, we try to be a little, I don't want to say fancy, but we don't tend to be as direct. These were times where we had to say, look, we had to postpone this event until further notice, and we really need you to, if you were planning to give this year, we need you to give on this day. So we really had to have a really direct, specific ask, especially with our board members, to many of whom, maybe traditionally give their gift at the very end of the fiscal year, and this is their plan. And I had to say to them, I know this was your plan, but this is now's the time. Now's the time for you to step up.
Yeah, that's also, so you were much more direct. And so what was the reaction? Obviously sounded good. You got some people to do more.
It was very good. It was very good. People, I think, really, they appreciated the fact that we were still doing something. Habitat for Humanity, we're still building homes. We still need money to build those homes. All these things are good. And I think people, especially in uncertain times, want a sense that they can still make a difference in the world. And in our way, that's what we were telling them, that yes, you were planning to make a gift at this breakfast. If you make a gift the same day, you're still making a difference. And with the added benefit of that matching gift, that we could say that your gift will be, your impact will be doubled, your impact will be changed. I think people were really excited to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I love how you shared that they're just grateful you're doing something. Because I
Yeah.
think we all, as nonprofits, not just in fundraising, but even in our trainings and programs and get togethers, I think we instantly just went to, okay, we got to cancel, or okay, I guess we can't do that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it was such an automatic thing. And even though we're home, we still want to be connected and we still want to feel useful. And so I love that you shared that, because I think more nonprofits need to hear that, because I think some of us are still kind of waiting around and just kind of figuring out what's going to happen and then make the plan. But 2 weeks ago, we didn't know we would be here for the rest of April.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it was.
Right.
You know, at the very beginning, the decision really was: do we risk a brand new event? Well, at one point, we even thought, you know, should we just have the breakfast and have it be smaller and get what we can get, or do we, you know, we had to say we're going to throw the whole thing out, so to speak, and take a risk and see what we can do.
Yeah. So I want to show people your page and maybe just talk us through the page and how this came about. Give me 1 second here.
Sure. Okay. So this is our giving page. We use a company called We Did It, and it's a very simple tool to customize online giving pages. So the video link you see embedded at the top of the page, that is that 6-minute professionally created video that we had for the breakfast. So we embedded it in the page. We have some different giving levels. The page kind of comes built in with giving levels, so you can customize, and some copy around what to do. So all of our social media messages, all of our email messages, everything pointed back to this page, and I think it worked. I mean, it worked. We had a significant amount of a little bit less than half of our gifts received that day were received online. So we had about 47% of our gifts received via this page. And I've stopped hearing you, Victoria, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm
sorry again. Yeah.
Hey, there you are. Hey.
So you said 47% of your gifts were online. How did the other ones come in?
The others were verbal commitments from board members, where some board members were more comfortable calling in and giving me their credit card number. Some board members were, you know, I'm going to mail you the check today, and that's how it happened. Some of the gifts we counted were also individuals who had pledges to the organization that called us or wrote us and said, I want to extend my pledge, so add me for another year, or add me for another, you know, this much time. So some of that stuff was handled in an offline fashion.
Okay, got it. So anything else on the page that you want to share? Oops.
No, I think whatever vehicle you have out there, I mean, there's a million different online giving tools. I think what was helpful for us is we were able to obviously track the gifts as they came in. We were also able to add those offline gifts to our total. So our gift thermometer during the day could reflect the offline activity as well. And that took more behind the scenes coordination from my major gift officer, Mary Beth Steen, and Judy Driscoll, our gift entry coordinator.
Okay, that's nice that it came. What was the name of the tool again?
We Did It.
We Did It. Okay, I haven't heard of that one. So We Did It. And then somebody has a question. So someone's asking, did the page get shared via an online event, or via an event invite? How did you promote it?
We promoted it mainly through email. We sent out, there were 3 main emails that went out prior to the event. There was an email that went to everyone who had already RSVP'd for the breakfast. So that was a very specific, you were going to do this, now we'd like you to do this email. There was another email we sent to anyone who had ever come to one of the breakfasts in the past. I think we went back 3 years. And we said, hey, you've done this in the past, we're doing this now. And then the last email was the big email we sent to everybody we had a name for. We went big, and we sent it out, and we promoted that. And then we also promoted it via our primary social media platform for the day was our Facebook page. So we had some posts leading up to the event talking about the live elements, talking about the day of giving, And that's really, so we didn't do an online event invite, but we did social media promotions that way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think right now, more than ever, we really have to leverage our social media assets, because that's everyone's on it every single day, which is why I chose to go through this kind of medium to share information, because I've noticed that people tend to watch it later on in the evening when they're just kind of at home and scrolling through, but it lives there. And so you never know when someone's going to come across your page or a post that somebody posted on behalf of you or shared. So really leveraging your followers and leveraging everyone is important.
Exactly. Yes.
That's great. And somebody wants to give you a shout out. Music Preserves Foundation in the house. I guess you're a mentor over there, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it's Anthony Small. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. You know what? So Michelle just joined us. So let's just chime her in here and just see how it's going. Her connection was bad. Let me get her in here. Here she comes. Hey, Michelle, how's it going?
Hi. Hey, Victoria. Hey, Chris. Good. Does it sound better?
Yeah. We're live right now. Thanks for joining us. Chris just went over, we talked about the Building Dreams, Hope Starts Here, and their transition online and all the to-dos and tasks that they went through. Just have a couple more questions actually for him, and then we can transition over to you, Michelle, and kind of talk about the broader scope of events. So Chris, there were two things actually. So Michelle, hello. And then I'm going to kind of put you away for a second.
Fair enough.
Okay, but just wanted to make sure you were in and we were good. Okay. So Chris, how was then, once you made the decision to do it, what was the board's reaction then? And how did their involvement change and need to change in order for it to be a success?
The board was incredibly supportive. Again, I think they really appreciated the fact that staff was coming to them with a new idea and with some focus and some positivity and some passion around this idea. And they really stepped up. The board got more involved with this than they had in breakfast in the past. In the past, a handful of board members would bring guests to the breakfast, but we've been doing the event for several years, and some of them were kind of running, their energy level and enthusiasm was kind of waning a little bit about the event. And when I announced this, they stepped right up, and some of them had done giving days for other nonprofits, so some were very familiar with what I was asking them to do. Some needed a little more instruction, and we prepared social media toolkits for them and really explained very clearly how they could best help in it. And I would send regular emails to the board with, they can help by giving, they can help by sharing, and they can help by telling their story on social media. And that really, a lot of them really grabbed onto that. And so it was we were very well supported by the board.
That's good. So it sounds like their involvement actually had to go a notch above.
Oh yeah, normal. They had to do more. But in a way, I think it was easier for them. I mean, I think asking my board members to get involved through this, it was a very different kind of ask than asking them to bring people to an event, which is a whole different set of emotions and a whole different kind of social contract. So this was really asking them to give, to share, and to tell, and we gave them a lot of avenues and options to do that. And I think how
easy. I was actually having a conversation with a cohort of nonprofits. I do virtual learning labs weekly with some of our grantees, and this conversation came up, and I said, if all your board, if 100% of your board does not like your page or follow your page or even give you a rating, I think that's where you could start, right? The least you could do, the least they could do is go onto your page and like it and share it, and even say, I'm a board member and I support this local nonprofit. That should be easy enough, right? But
Should be.
I don't think we ever thought about it or considered it as a necessary ask because sometimes we're so focused on the monetary.
Sure, or because back in the day, 3 weeks ago, we wanted them to invite us to events and to bring people to us, and so now we have board members who still love us.
Yes.
And they can't do as much, so we have to find new ways to keep them engaged. And there's a lot of stuff they can do from the comfort of their own couch or desk. So
awesome. And then lastly, because when we were prepping for this call, I loved hearing about the team. Any other team dynamics that nonprofits just need to hear and know? It sounds like you have a large team, so I know that or a team, whereas some nonprofits don't have any. What did this do to your team in the transition? How did it change your leadership style? I mean, what transformations happened through this?
I think it gave us all something to really focus on. And for me, I know I'm at my worst when I'm in between a decision, and when I was trapped in that, do we do the event, or do we move the event, or what happens? That was a really hard time for me as a leader and as an employee. It was really hard for me to figure out, what's the best thing to do for this organization, for this event. And once we made that decision, I was just, this is all we're going to do. And we brought everyone together and said, everything now points to this until further notice. And, and they took that challenge on. And I think giving someone a tangible problem to solve in these intangible times, I think that's good. I think that's good for the soul. And I think that's the same reason why, when times are stressful, people do all sorts of things to try to exert some control over their life. And for our team, this was everyone on the team knew the importance of the event. Everyone on the team knew the challenges we were facing as a society. And I think everyone really stepped up to say, well, wait a minute, this is something we can do. This isn't going to solve all our problems, but it's going to solve a lot of them. And it's going to make sure we're telling as much of our world as we can that Habitat's still here, that we're still here, we're still building, and we're still trying to help families.
That's great. That's awesome. And you didn't really share, but you actually exceeded your goal, right?
We did. We broke the 300,000 mark. Yeah, it was just a remarkable day. Some of those gifts came in at the very end. Some of them came in the day or two after. But it was, I think, a real testament to our donors' commitment to us and to the team's ability to really execute on a difficult and unknown project. And I was so happy. It was.
That's great.
It was a great day.
Yeah, that's the ultimate win, is making it happen and not just meeting the expectation, but actually going above it. I mean, I think that is a lesson for all of us to learn that maybe it was time to change.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
That's great. Well, thank you, Chris. I'm going to bring Michelle in. Feel free to stay and add if you would like, but sure. Kind of changed up the way we planned on doing this. But feel free to stay on if you can. If not, totally understand. Let's bring in Michelle here. Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you.
Good. I'm good. I'm still learning this broadcasting thing and how to kind of move people around. So, forgive me.
It's okay. It's better to get something out there than nothing. And I think we're all in that time when we're trying to understand that there is technology and there are possibilities, but we're all sort of the first to kind of explore it in these ways. And I think it kind of lends itself to Chris's story, like if you don't take the plunge. So you too, thanks for putting up content and reaching out and keeping people connected. I mean, it's the best thing we can be doing right now. So thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, no, and I'll admit part of it was selfishness on my part. I'm like, I need to see people. I need to talk to people. I need to feel useful. So so we're all having fun. So for those of you who are just joining us or curious, we're talking about virtual fundraising success. We just got done speaking with Chris from Habitat for Humanity and learning about their event, which was a very specific event that they just had, and they actually exceeded their goal. And now, Michelle, we wanted to kind of take some time with you because you you've been helping nonprofits with multiple types of events and transitioning them online. So Chris gave a story of a very quick transition, 2 weeks, right? Two weeks to make a decision and move forward with it, and talked about the team and the role of the board and all that. You also were in that similar situation, but you also right now have the luxury of actually working with nonprofits with a little bit more time to transition. So just want to talk about how that differs, the conversations you're having with nonprofits, so on and so forth. So maybe go ahead and introduce yourself as well, and talk about what you do, and then get into some of the work that you've been doing this post-COVID life.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So I'm Michelle French, and our organization is Sunday Soul Events. We help nonprofits with their event fundraising and event logistics. So everything from event concept through to actual planning and event staff day of, management of all of the contract negotiations ahead of time. So really full event production specified to nonprofit organizations. So understanding dynamics of committees, boards, lots of decision makers, and trying to help navigate that process and make it really as seamless as possible so that our clients can really still focus on their mission and on programs and on, having meaningful conversations with their sponsors while in the midst of events, which we all know have a really important place in fundraising, but really it's the relationships within that. So we try to alleviate some of that labor and stress so that you can really spend time on that.
Okay.
Our experience right now, like Chris, we had to make some really quick decisions with a couple of clients that were immediately affected. So 3 weeks ago, as things escalated that midweek, leading into Friday the 13th, we had an event that was supposed to take place on that Friday. On Tuesday, the decision was made. Thankfully, part of that auction was already online. We were working in that particular situation with One Cause, and we were able to still do the virtual auction online. And I know there's been a lot of talk of like virtual event versus moving your auction online. So I think that's an important differentiation too. And that was one of the first bridges that we crossed. Like, are we talking about taking an event online, or are we talking about taking a component of the event?
Okay. So what then, similar to what Chris was sharing in terms of the sequence of how you make these decisions, what typically from your end as an event planner, which nonprofits who do their own event planning can consider, what was the sequence of events tasks that needed to be, first put out there, and then accomplished in order for the nonprofit to feel, I guess, comforted that this was going to work? Because, in Chris's case, he at first it was like, okay, we just got to postpone. But then it was like, no, we got to do something. Yeah. And then there was a series of things that had to happen, but they're internal, right? Yeah. You're external, kind of coming in saying it's going to be okay. Here's what we can do. So what's your process?
Yeah. So like the first two were quick. 72 hours. And then the second one was pretty much a 24-hour turnaround, like deciding Friday that really, that event wasn't going to be able to happen on Saturday. So I don't know if, instilling any kind of assurances or calm or peace. I mean, you all do the best that you can. I think that at that point, it was like kind of preserve what you can, and okay, what can we still do? So we still, for that event, had videos that had been produced, had a landing page for the event, and so could encourage people via just communications online, phone calls, to please still join us at that specific time. And then we just moved that whole auction online, which initially was not intended to be an online auction. So, but at least that's some part of that fundraising component that could still take place. And then the decisions about how long should that run. So I think that the first two being so fast, it was, you kind of just had to do what you had to do and put the auctions online. One, like I said, we used One Cause, another was Greater Giving. One did still have the live auction. So they grouped live auction items, had people still log in together. And I think now that we're a few weeks in, more people have understood how we can still join in some sort of community at the same time. There's lots of things happening even on YouTube, on Facebook Live like this, on Zoom, where we now realize like we can actually still bring people together at the same time. And so that first live auction was an experiment and, did well, but was like, okay, if we had a little more time. So now what you're asking about is like, as we get a little more runway for this, what kinds of decisions are we going through? So the first, of course, is cancel, are you going to cancel altogether? And what is the revenue impact? If you're going to postpone, the biggest thing there is negotiating with your venues, being really clear about your communication for why you're choosing to do that, and making sure there's space. So I think what, kind of what Chris was saying too, it's like this event needs to take place at this time. Otherwise, then that we cascade into all of our other fundraising activities, which include year-end campaigns and fall events. And all of a sudden, it's like we can't push everything. So then we're faced with like, what does virtual look like?
Yeah. So you brought up a good point. That's why I brought Chris back in. Chris, you didn't have an auction for this event, right? Because it's just a 1-hour breakfast. But was there any live component to this day that you embedded?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, can you hear me? You can't hear me?
No, I got you now. There was a little bit of a lag.
Oh, okay, there we are. I was asking, so Michelle was talking about auctions. You didn't have an auction.
No auction, no.
But was there any live component that you added to this day other than your pre-made videos?
Yeah, we did some Facebook Live announcements throughout the day. About every 2 hours or so, I would broadcast a Facebook Live, and I would announce winners of, I would thank donors, I would announce winners of the giveaways, I would tease or announce new challenge gifts, and we would do that kind of throughout the day. I was fortunate that I had room here, and my son was my cameraman that day, so he came in and took care of it.
No, I think that's important that everyone knows that when you go online, because I've seen so I've gotten emails, right, from nonprofits that, are nameless, that they're moving it online and there's an auction and it's just one email and there's no other virtual component to it. And so I think what's important to note here that you guys are saying is if you're going to go virtual, you got to go all in. It's got to be a lot of communication, a lot of chatter. You said you went live every 2 hours. And it's not just posting, it's actually going live, posting videos. Chris, were there any other people that did this with you? Did you enlist board members, staff?
No, I was the only one doing the live segments. And we did have video messages from some board members, but I was the only one doing the live on the day. Okay, got it. I think that's important for everyone to take note of because not everyone likes going live. Not everyone likes being on camera. Not everyone likes doing it, but I think it does speak to your success of the event because with all this noise and with everyone on social media and then also watching the news, it's easy to get forgotten and lost. But if you're constantly in people's faces, then that, brings more awareness and attention to what's going on. Right. So I want to take note of that. Okay. So Michelle, the auction, then you said it was fairly successful.
Yeah. So there's a couple different components with that. The one that the auction was already kind of framed up to be online. The silent auction did quite well. And the live actually did well. I also think, though, it was kind of right on the cusp of everything that was happening. And so it was almost like, this is kind of exciting and different. And let's check it out and see. And I mean, to be really honest, 3 weeks later, would that have had the same result? Like something like that might be better to still wait. But that it did. It was very successful. And then the second one, we put everything online, even items that originally were intended to be live auction items. So I think what you're saying too is what we have all gathered and learned. It's like, how do you still integrate more components than simply putting something online? Like we've had the ability to do that for a while. And even when we did that before, it was like, how do we still post meaningful content and how do we still have meaning and messaging behind what we're doing and why we're doing it? So that's kind of where we now are now a few weeks later, like you pointed out, when we're considering some events that still have a little bit of time to figure out what's going to be appropriate. And like you said it really well. If we're going to do this, like, let's do this. Let's make sure that our video content is still really good. Our messaging is strong. The reason we're doing this, you know, remains. We're in the middle of a crisis, but we still have need before, during, and after. So really clearly messaging that. And then I think, you know, like you and Chris were saying, you take it through a series of decisions of how the committee can still be involved and the board. And then when we get down to the nitty gritty stuff, it's like, okay, what does that video content look like? Are we still going to have a live speaker? Are we going to live stream them? How are people going to gather? And that's when we start getting into those really detailed questions of how we're actually going to put this all together. And there's a lot of options, which is why I think, like you said, there's a lot of noise right now. You can get on webinars and everybody's talking about it, but like, okay, can we put a pen to paper? Like, how do we do this? So that's what we're kind of walking through, all those steps and bringing all the best components and all the best pieces up together with the knowledge that we have right now. It's all still, you know, rolling out as we speak.
Right. Something else came up. Chris, you had to, just so people know, for those that are in the situation of having to cancel, because you didn't postpone, right? You canceled.
Well, yeah, I mean, our original message was we were just going to postpone it. And to be honest, we gave ourselves a little bit of a safety net. We said, all right, we'll push the breakfast to the summer. And we'll do this Day of Giving. And if this Day of Giving flops, then we'll pick a hard date for the breakfast in the summer. We'll just do it there.
Okay.
Now,
how did that... Go ahead, finish.
Given the success of the drive, we decided not to do that. We decided to not do the breakfast at all because we felt like that would be duplicative and I don't think in our donors' best interest. So
how did that affect contract with your venue? Because I know that's another thing that nonprofits are worried about.
Yeah. We have a very good relationship. We were working with the team at the DoubleTree at the Spectrum. We've been there for a couple of years now. They were totally understanding when we said we needed to push this date. And we've got this date in the future, which we might use for a donor appreciation event or some other. I mean, we've basically got that card we can still play.
Yeah.
But they were really understanding about about our needs and what was going on, and it was a pretty painless process.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I know. I won't go into detail on that here. We have another. We went live with Public Law Center last week, and Sarah went over all of those details with people. So if you have questions about that, you can find that that go live. Michelle, you brought up something up, and I'm curious how this also, both of you can answer this. Chris as well. Has this changed then your future fundraising events and the planning? Because Chris, you had said you reached out to donors and said, hey, this is what you typically give here. Can we move it up, right? Because we're doing this giving day. And Michelle, you're saying nonprofits are having the conversation of, well, if we do postpone, then what does that do to the other event that we have planned? So how has this changed your fundraising plan for the year? Chris, you want to start?
It's changed everything, really. We we're in the, like many of you, we are in the fiscal year. So our fiscal year ends June 30. So we're already starting to plan for fiscal year 21. So we're not going to do the breakfast in fiscal year 21. We're going to do another online drive. And and we have a CEO, a leadership build day called the Leaders Build Challenge that was scheduled for May. We're pushing that to the fall. And we had an event in the fall. We're pushing that around the corner to May again. So we're sliding and moving. Our whole calendar is kind of in flux right now as to where things are going to land. So it has changed pretty much everything. We're none of the fundamentals, but the details. Yes.
Okay. So you're just shifting months. Everything's moving by.
We are shifting. Yeah. It's
a matter of months.
Clean cut, move down all the way down the line. Yep.
Okay. Michelle, conversations you're having with nonprofits and even your own business, right? This is impacting your business because, you had work planned as well. What are you seeing?
Yeah. So I unfortunately couldn't hear Chris during that, sadly, but I
It was
hope
great.
I
You missed it.
can probably ascertain, the experience that he's having. And I think it mirrors most of us right now. Two things. I think that in our experience right now, and a lot of people are starting to ask, like, what about my summer event? What do I do? And for us, it's been sort of a rolling few weeks at a time. Like, obviously, we became very clear very quickly what was happening with March. And then April sort of followed. May is now all either postponed or canceled. And now that beginning of June is the big question. Just even to the appropriateness at that point in time. So in terms of deciding and how events are like making, I feel like we're kind of in that rolling motion that every couple of days or a week, then we can extend one more echelon of like when we can say, okay, we need to do something different. And so I think summertime right now is really talking, beginning of summer, at least, like, what does virtual look like? I think everyone still has an intention, because if they do start pushing to fall, it's where it changes those donors. And if we were honoring someone, how do we still honor and celebrate that? So how do we really kind of do virtual in between? And then
we lost Michelle. Oh,
and
bummer.
Then what?
And then what? Dun, dun, dun. Oh, the joys of live. Well, good thing I kept you. Good thing you stayed.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, hopefully she makes it back in time. If not, I think we got a lot. I only had one last question, and that really was any tips that you have for nonprofits right now, Chris, in this time, event related or not. What do you want to share with our sector?
I missed the first part of that question, but I think it was what I want to share with the sector.
Yeah. So in everything that you've experienced and what's going on, what are some tips, just big high level tips you have for nonprofits that are going through what you went through and, to move on?
I would say, think big, trust your team, ask for help, seek advice. We all have a network of people that we trust. We got to, work that network now more than ever. And be direct with our donors and our volunteers, and be direct that this is a crisis and we need help, and it's there's no shame in that. And in order for us to continue to serve the people we want to serve, we need to serve. Everyone needs to do something different and try something different. So just keep having those conversations and don't lose heart. These are challenging times, and I know my anxiety level is up and down depending on how much news I read. So I think we have to keep, especially from the nonprofit side, we have an obligation to take care of one another so we can better take care of the people we're serving. So anything you can do to help each other out is time well spent.
I love that. Thanks. Michelle, sorry we lost you. We didn't know if you were going to come back. So I moved on to my last segment of tips for nonprofits, but please finish what you were saying. All we heard was and. Dun,
dun, dun. Leave you hanging. And okay, so I think I was saying the first thing is like the rolling decisions that we're kind of in the middle of summer.
Yes.
And then exactly, like, once we do make those decisions, how much time we have, okay, let's do virtual, because it's still so important. I think kind of what Chris was just saying, to be getting our messages out. And I was going to point out something about sponsors and the asks. You were kind of asking like, okay, but if we ask them now and we still do this, like, what does that mean for the future? And so I think it's this opportunity and this invitation to go deeper with some of those sponsors. Like, what position are they in? How can we extend their benefit, so to speak, and their exposure and deepen their relationship with us? If we go virtual, we have a lot more points of communication. And so I think the hard part right now is like, okay, let's go virtual, and absolutely, let's go all in. But the issue with that is, like, any campaign we ever do has so many components. So we've got to talk about that communication angle. How many messages are going out? What's going to be part of that? And then the content within. And I think the exciting, cool thing is that we have lots of partners right now that are trying to create places and spaces where we can set up cameras and we can kind of have only one staff person there and have a robotic movement of that camera to still capture a message. Because what's going to start happening is, we were lucky that we had videos already done for the March events. But as we get a little further, we maybe don't have that content.
Right.
And so we're in this place like, how do we make sure this looks professional? It looks clean. You could hear me. We don't have technical difficulties like today. Like, how do we make sure that we've got professional equipment in our still limited capacity? And so that's the exciting part, that those things are happening.
Yeah.
And there are places even locally where we can do that, and we can bring content together. And the ability is to live stream now. So you're going to house still on so many different platforms. There's an amazing platform through Vimeo where we can still house, and then we still can have people acting. Your AV team can do this virtually. You don't have to be somewhere anymore. So it's all possible. It's just going through all those different points. And then, like Chris was starting to say too, of like, if we need you and we still need your funding, how are we demonstrating to you that we're still using that in the best possible way? And that when we bring everyone together like this, you know, we are still conscious of our budget costs, and we're still fundraising here. Like, we're still trying to make money at the end of the day for the organization. So I think all those things. And then, you know, kind of the energy of the room is an important thing too. And like Chris was able to do with the day of giving and having the ask. So the other thing that we've talked a lot about is how we still do the fund a need donation ask, even if there's not an auction, if we're still asking for money within the room, how we still make people feel connected and that there's still that energy.
Yeah.
And as this, you know, as we begin to, you know, kind of connect these different technologies together, it's truly all possible. It's just, you know, now we almost need more time, you know, back to like a traditional amount of time that we need to bring something together. So June, July, August, you know, it's just to be continued. I'll let you know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be exciting to see the new way that we're fundraising, the new way we're engaging with donors and even our clients. You know, we're just talking about fundraising success, but I'm hearing a lot of program success out there that's happening virtually. So, you know, I'm just so excited about kind of being forced into the virtual world, because I mean, I've been in it for a while, just from previous work. And so I've seen it and I understand it, but when you're in the sector and you just in life, you kind of stick with where you are and where, you know, where everyone else is. But now we are all here. And so,
and it does open that door to like dream and what's possible. And I think that's what we try to say. Okay, you know, this is a challenging time, but through challenging times is when we come up with all kinds of innovations and new ideas. So put it all out there. Like, what would still be the best kind of experience for your donor, for your sponsor? Like, this is still an experience we're creating. So what does that look like? True. And we just throw all kinds of stuff on the wall. And then we think, all right, look, how do you really make that happen? And how do you prioritize the things that are most important? Because it is possible. It's just, you know, we're all sort of the first to do it. So, yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, so I gave Chris the opportunity to give one last tip for nonprofits. And what I wrote down here was think big, be direct. Michelle, I like how you just said, make it an experience still. It's still an experience. Make it fun. Yeah. Any other last minute tips you want to add or just kind of comments to people that are listening?
Well, I think what we've been saying a lot is, and we all sort of say it in this, you know, kind of environment, is take this as a beautiful opportunity to explore things and understand. Chris said it really well. We're all still in this together, and we understand at the end what the critical needs still are. And right now we just have to. So I think. It's still okay to be creative. I think sometimes we think, oh my goodness, no, right now we just have to be so strategic and we just only have to, which is really very true. But at the same time, if we also can't see a little further ahead and also still be innovative and creative, you know, maybe things were getting a little stale. And this is our opportunity to make sure that we rise to the occasion to offer something that is meaningful. So.
Nice. Well, thank you both so much. We got some good comments. Yeah, that came in. Just great info. A congrats to Habitat for exceeding their goal. And thank you, Michelle, for joining us there towards the end. This was a lot of fun. I know this was one of those things that people kept bringing up is, I have this event. What do I do? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? So I believe you're both in the group. So as people comment, if you're willing to comment back, please do. And if there's any other questions from those that are listening later, feel free to put them in the comments and share. And thank you both for doing this. I'm really, really happy.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, it was great.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys soon.
Be well.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone.